Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about the famous dramatist Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett, 1906-1989. Full name Samuel Barclay Beckett. He was born in 1906 in Foxrock, Dublin, Ireland. And he died on December 22nd, 1989 in Paris, France. Basically, his nationality is Irish, but he took a French citizenship later in his life. Occupation: he's a playwright, novelist, short story writer, poet, translator, and a director. The primary languages used by Samuel Beckett include English and French, often translating his own works. Samuel Beckett was born into a Protestant Anglo-Irish upper-middle-class family in Dublin. Samuel Beckett was educated at the Portora Royal School in Enniskillen, just as Oscar Wilde. He attended Trinity College, Dublin from 1923 to 1927, studying French and Italian. Samuel Beckett studied under the noted dandy scholar Thomas Browne Redmose Browne. He excelled academically and athletically, notably in cricket. He appears in Wisden Cricket's Almanac. Samuel Beckett became lecturer of English at the École Normale Supérieure, Paris from 1928 and 1930. His associations with James Joyce. In Paris, Samuel Beckett met James Joyce in the late 1920s. He assisted James Joyce with the work Finnegan's Wake, especially in organizing research materials. Samuel Beckett contributed to the collection titled Our Examination round his Factification for Incarnation of Work in Progress, published 1929, a defense of James Joyce's work. Though initially under Joyce's influence, Beckett eventually moved away from Joycean abundance to stark minimalism. Now Samuel Beckett's connection with World War II and the resistance. Samuel Beckett joined the French resistance during the time of 1941 and 1945 as a courier under a cell named Gloria SMH. Samuel Beckett escaped the Gestapo and fled to Roussillon in Vichy, France. He lived under an alias, worked as a farm laborer, and hid from Nazi patrols. He was awarded with the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille de la Résistance by the French government. Now let's talk about the literary career and major works of Beckett. First of all, his dramatic works. The first one, Waiting for Godot, 1853, An Attendant Godot. Characters in this play include Vladimir, Estragon, Pozzo, Lucky, and a boy. In this work, two tramps wait endlessly for someone named Godot. The themes include absurdity, time, hope, stagnation, the meaning of life. It created the genre-defining theatre of the absurd, famously described as a play where nothing happens twice. Now the next work, that is Endgame, 1957, A Fin-D Party. Characters include Ham is a blind, paralyzed character, then Clover is a servant, then Nag and Nell, parents in trash bins. A bleak vision of a post-apocalyptic world. It addresses entrapment, dependency, futility, and cyclical patterns of existence. The next work, that is Kraft's Last Tape, 1958. In this work, we can see a man listens to old audio diaries reflecting on lost love and ambition. Powerful meditation on aging, memory, and regret. Now the next work, that is Happy Days, 1961. Winnie is buried waist deep and later neck deep in sand, where he keeps a cheerful figure. He contrasts external paralysis with the internal resistance and habitual optimism. The next work, that is Play, 1963. Three characters in urns speak over each other in a fast, repetitive burst. Surreal treatment of infidelity, guilt, and communication. The next work, Not I, 1972. Only a mouth is visible on stage, delivering a frantic monologue. It deals with the trauma, dissociation, and a fragmented identity. The next box, Footfalls, published 1976. Rockabye, 1981. What Were, 1983. Minimalist abstract plays focusing on death, repetition, and a self-erasure. Now let's analyze the prose works of Samuel Beckett. First of all, his novels. First one, Murphy, 1938, is a comic novel exploring mental illness, love, and metaphysics. Now his trilogy novels, that is Molly, Malone Days, and The Unnameable. First one, Molly, published 1951. A wanderer with a memory lapses recounts his aimless journey. Then Malone Days, 1951. A dying narrator tells disconnected tales. The third work, The Unnameable, 1953. A voice seeks identity in a stream of consciousness monologue. The next work, that is What, written in 1943, published in 1953. Absurdly logical narrative with extreme linguistic experiments. Now the next work, that is How It Is, 1961. Common Zest, a fragmented prose written in unpunctuated minimalist style depicting a man crawling through mud. Now let's talk about the short prose works written by Samuel Beckett. First one, More Pricks Than Kicks, 1934. A satirical stories featuring the character Blika Shua. The next work, Text for Nothing, 1951. 13 fragmented monologues exploring existential emptiness. Next work, Fizzle Series. Miniature stories reflecting nihilism and reduction. The next work, Stirring Still, 1988, is his final prose work, published posthumously. Now let's talk about the poetry and the criticisms. First one, Horoscope, 1930, is a modernist poem about a René Descartes and the nature of time. The next work, Echoes, Bonds and Other Precipitations, 1935, is a collection of surrealist and philosophical poems. The next work, Poems, 1948-1950, is a series of existential and fragmented French poems. The next we can talk about his essays and criticism. Is Proust, 1931, is a monograph interpreting Marcel Proust through Schopenhauerian time and memory. Now let's analyze Samuel Beckett's style and philosophical orientation. First, absurdism. That is, life has no inherent meaning. Characters confront this void. Next, existentialism. That is, human freedom, choice, alienation, and the burden of consciousness. Minimalism. That is, reduces action, dialogue, and settings to the barest essence. Silence and language. Explores the limits of language and the power of silence. Often denies plot progression, linearity, and a character psychology. Awards and honors. Samuel Beckett received first of all Nobel Prize in Literature 1969 for transforming modern drama and fiction. Now let's talk about his influence and legacy. He is foundational to the theatre of absurd, influencing Harold Pinter, Edward Albee, Tom Stoppard. He inspired artists in visual art, cinema, philosophy, and dance. Revered by existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. His works are widely studied in literary theory, trauma studies, and modernist philosophy. His aesthetics laid a groundwork for postmodern narrative theory. Later years and death. Samuel Beckett lived quietly in Montparnasse with Suzanne. He became increasingly reclusive, though directed his own plays in Germany, the US, and France. Samuel Beckett suffered from emphysema and Parkinson's disease in later years. He died on 22nd December 1989, 5 months after his wife, Suzanne. Now let's talk about some of the interesting facts about Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett was once stabbed by a pimp in Paris in 1938. When the assailant was arrested, Beckett declined to press charges. Samuel Beckett played first-class cricket for Dublin University and is featured in Wisden Cricketer's Almanac. He refused to attend the Nobel Prize ceremony, saying he didn't like ceremonies. Samuel Beckett directed many of his own plays and demanded precision in lighting, pacing, and rhythm. His characters' names often symbolize states of being. For example, Ham that symbolizes hammer or head. Clove symbolizes clove or nail. Crap symbolizes crap.